nested circle die cut cards using Batik Sepia papers, cardstock, and Kleine Parma products. A quick tutorial from our friend Jeanette Wilde. Welcome to PM Artist Studio, and thank you for joining us. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We do this each week. Now, let's join Jeanette.
So I'm making the nested circle die cards. So first thing you want to do is the nested circles that I have every single size from, I think it's about this whole size of an A4 all the way down to this little guy here. And actually there's one more that you can do in the middle. And so I try to pick out what kind of pattern I want based on my card base. So my card base looks like this. It is a 5x5 going by this grid. And so I've decided I want a large gap here, so a larger circle here, then a small one, and then tapering in evenly to the middle. You can go large, small, all the way in. That's all up to you. The fun thing about having nested dies in which you've got all the different sizes is that you can really make a neat pattern going on this. So I picked out my pattern. Now the one thing that I find invaluable for doing this is a magnetic mat. Whatever works with the die cutter that you have. I happen to have a Gemini. I really like the Kleine Parma Aluminum magnetic mat, simply because this sucker doesn't warp. The only reason it's got a warp here is because I accidentally started going through with my die the wrong way and I started cutting into it. Luckily I was able to stop it before it got too bad. But that is the only reason it has a warp. I have used this a ton and it just doesn't warp. And that is invaluable because the one that came with the Gemini warped almost immediately. And the other reason I like this is it's got a ton of different grid lines, and it also shows you all the different sizes of card bases in case you want to align it that way. I'm just going to go the center point. Because I've got a circle, I want to know that if it shifts, because and when I did this the first time, it shifted every single time, that I can put them back exactly where they were before. So I'm just going off the center, and then luckily, even though I don't need this necessarily to guide where I am at, I've got this nice square here on the mat that's helping me. So I'm kind of going pink line, and I'm just picking grid squares here. And I would, if I were you, just in case, write down where each circle ends up. Now it can shift a little bit. In other words, if it shifts when I took it out and then I put it back down and I didn't have it exactly on the lines where I had it before, that is not, a huge issue. The idea is to get it as close as possible to where you had it before. You'll see I did have in my final cuts, I did have a couple that I did not line up very well. When they shifted, I didn't line them back up very well, and it still worked. So I mean, it's not crucial, but obviously you want them as close as possible. And you can see I'm putting some real time into this. So once I figure out on the grid where they all go, where they line up, then from that point on, when they shift and I have to move them again, it's not going to take as long, because right now I'm just trying to figure out which one it goes to. And of course, if they shift, then I already know that, and so it won't take quite as much time, to put them back into place. But I'm really taking my time to make sure that I've got them all nicely centered. And so this is the pattern that I plan on using. So they're all perfectly centered, going into the middle. Not perfectly, but as perfect as I can get. Again, this is based off of you in terms of what kind of pattern you want. So like I said, I will note this down, but for instance, if you don't want this, you can go asymmetrical. So I could shift everything into the corner so that each one gets slowly closer like that. And that could be an interesting pattern to have on your card. Now again, what I would do is figure out, mark down where each of these are sitting so that each subsequent cut is exactly the same as the one before, so that they will lay into each other in the next step. So this part, it's totally up to you as to how you want it, but like I said, mark where they all are. Even doing it this way, I would still probably go off the center, so start that one in the center and then go all off like that. A neat thing would be to just center the first one and then just pull them all close to each other. That would make a neat pattern. So it's completely up to you to how you set up your pattern. Just note it so that, I would, figure out how to put these all in so that they get exactly the same way every time. And then they'll all lay in together. So then I would go and cut, and every time it's going to get me exactly the same cut, and they'll lay into each other. I like to do typically 3 design pages and 3 cardstock pages. It gives a really nice assortment of colors, and you're going to make a lot of cards out of that. I think I ended up making 6, or not making 6, but I ended up with enough to make 6 cards. So the next step would be to cut my paper. So go and cut, and you'll see the next part. So you're now looking at after I've cut everything. So what I'm doing is I'm going to sort all the circles that I made into piles with their sizes, just so that I can see what I got, and when I go to make my card, I can grab the next wheel. So this is my card base. So now I'm going to plan out how my circles are going to go on my card. And I kind of like the look of them going slightly off the card, not just slap dang in the middle, so off the card. So I'm going to put it here in the edge because I want a sentiment is going to go here. So it doesn't matter what I start with, I'm just going to randomly grab things and somewhat going to go, detail, and then cardstock, and then detail, and then cardstock, and then my last one, which is this one, and then take a look at it, see what I like. And I don't like the color there in the middle, so let's see here. Where's my other color? This one, and then this one. And I like that better. So that's what we're going to go with for the first one. Put everybody to the side, and I'm just going to kind of slide that off. Here's my card base. Get out my glue book, which, since I'm a video game crazy person and I like to have my get 100% on my video games, I'm crazy. I have a lot of these guidebooks, and of course once you finish the game and then played it a couple dozen times, because again, I'm crazy. Oh, so ink the edges, which I've already done. So especially on the outer one, from that point on you can kind of skip it because you can see that with the colored cardstock you don't see it as much. But I definitely at least do the outer one, and then if you have a lighter colored cardstock, you might want to, or actually a really dark colored cardstock, which will emphasize the white on the edge, then definitely go through. And again, I'm just taking away that edge. I'm not trying to really overly ink it. So I'm just going to go do those two because looking at that cardstock with with that, you can't see the white. So we're good. So like I said, you don't have to do a lot of inking because the next piece will hide it. And so I'm gonna, even though parts of it are going to be off, I'm going to go around the entire thing just so I know that whatever piece touches my card base, it's going to definitely be glued. And now I just start inlaying. And I'm going to have a little bit off, but most of it on. So just a little bit. And this is preference, I mean, obviously. Get that on. And since that's the only piece that's going to be hanging off, I can go ahead and cut. And of course, always turn it over, cut from the back. And other piece. Okay. There we go. And since now I cut that off and I've got a stark white edge, I'm only inking, trying to not ink the card base, just the, oh, sorry, that was off. I'm not inking the card base, just the paper. Okay, and now we just start laying them in there. Now the die that I have cuts a stitch into it, and there is a right side and a wrong side, if you will. So make sure you're gluing it together on the right side, because the stitch isn't as prominent on the wrong side, if you will. And I'm just laying them in, adjust to get rid of all the white underneath. The glue will help it to fall into place. And now if any of these were slightly off, like I said, since they did, in fact, they slipped a lot for some reason, I don't know. Last time I did this, they didn't slip quite as much as they did this time. You can kind of stretch it out, so you can see here it didn't quite, so I'm just kind of using the wetness that the glue gave me for the paper to kind of stretch it a bit. And let's see, there, it's the wrong side. Ooh, that one got really yeah, that one really slipped. Hopefully this is okay. Should be, because it's the inner piece that moved, but it just means that it's slightly to the side. And the last one, I usually just run, if it's a circle, a little one, I just run it over the tip of my glue stick. And down she goes. And there we have it. Easy, easy peasy. And you can see I'm going to be able to make a ton more cards. Basically, for every ring that I've got. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more cards, which is great. So if you're wanting to do some mass card making for like Christmas gift, or just to add to your stash, this is a great way to do it. And like I said, I plan on, I'm going to be using some of your pieces here. And then also I've got a couple of stamps. And so I'm going to use my Misty. And I've got some paper here. I've got Happy Birthday and Get Well Soon. And I'm planning on using, I don't know if I want to layer them, but I'm planning on using these banner dies. So I'm going to just make sure I've got plenty of room. So if I put him there, that should give me plenty of room for Happy Birthday. And actually, since I want it to go off, no, that'll be great. That'll be perfect. Down. And again, my ink is somewhere else. I love using the Misty especially for sentiments, because I know, you know, as a clear stamp you can line it up. And of course you want to make sure that your paper is in the right spot and has not moved. And why are you being such a stink butt? I'm going to turn that over. It keeps warping on me. There we go. Of course, now my ink is probably dry. Yep. But like I said, trying to line up sentiments with a glass, stamp thing is, I really love the Misty for doing these kinds of things. And I might as well, since I'm here, I'll go ahead and do the get well soon. I'm probably wasting a little bit of paper, but I like to give myself lots of room. And just so you know, I do not clean my stamps. I know there is people are always asking about cleaning stamps, and so that's why we love the Misty. I do not. Your ink has something in it called glycerin, and glycerin moisturizes your stamp. Oh, that went out really good. I don't have to do that one again. By cleaning them, you're using an alcohol, typically alcohol-based, something that has alcohol in it, to clean your stamp. What does alcohol do? It dries. Baby wipes, alcohol. So, yeah. So if you want a quick way of ruining your stamps eventually, definitely clean them. And I will tell you, this isn't just me making this up. So I took a course with Tim Holtz, who, we all love and adore as a crafter. And he is the one that said, do not clean your stamps. Okay, I'm going to go cut this. Okay, so I cut out my 2 sentiments that I need. And I used the next size up on the flag to make a little background for the flags. And then I fussy cut out this little flower from the ephemera page from the paper set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him kind of sitting right there so that my flag goes over the bottom of him, so he kind of looks like he's peeking up. Pick out the best spot for that. Okay, so I'm going to put him down. Where's my blue page? And I'm going with the get well soon because I thought this little flower kind of said, I hope you're doing better. So he was about there. Just to double check. Yeah, about there. And then where is my bone folder? Just to burnish him down so he's nice and stuck. And I always use Teflon because it doesn't leave marks on your paper. Plastic ones can do that. Okay, now my flag. And then my get well soon. And I'm not cutting them yet because I have the get well soon to put down. I'm going to layer him on top of that. Burnish that down nicely. And then from the back, cut that off. Now I can add some sequins or enamel dots or, or just leave it like this. So there is my completed card. That came out real nice. And like I said, the wonderful thing about this is I have 5 more to go. And you don't necessarily need to put on a sentiment. I like that look. Put the circles right in the middle. Put the sentiment across it. Just so many ways that you can use this idea. And this works really well not also with hexagons, squares, any kind of nested die that you have, you can do this method with. I really like the circles. So like I said, I got 5 more to go, and I have a mass make of cards. So
this brings us to the end of the video, and an opportunity to say a huge thank you to Jeanette for doing this for us, not only using our papers, but putting together this video for us. If you haven't had a chance, please do check out her channel as well. I will link to it below. And as for us, thanks again for watching. And as always, like the video if you haven't. Leave us a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Ring that bell. We do this each week. Thank you again for watching.